I believe this came from Solve for Happy. They were talking about a professor, I believe, who said, I can't remember exactly the context or if it was a study, but basically someone said who was commenting on this topic made the claim that I could know everything about your life, excluding, like, in your external world, your influences, your relationships, your food, all of that, and I would only be able to predict 10% of what constitutes your happiness. And that is to say, 90% of what influences your happiness is dependent on how your brain views your situation and how your brain experiences it. And I think, I mean, you can really see it, right? It's like you can see one person have all the things another person wants and be miserable, and it's like they would rather have these things that this person may not want, and it's just the people just want different things, and their happiness isn't going to magically work out because they have the things that someone else would be happy with having, which is just, I mean, if you think about it, the modern world, just the act of having running water is an insane luxury compared to like all of human history, and they would be so happy to have it, whereas for us, it's just something that we have. Okay, next is if your brain has a bug, it just runs incorrectly over and over. Okay, so if there is I think this one is actually, I think these two are actually from 101 essays, now that I think about it. Anyway, so it was talking about how our brain is a tool, which is true. And so if it has a mistake in the algorithm, we treat it as a representation of ourselves rather than just a tool for our assistance, then when we have a mistake, maybe a belief that's wrong, or a poor choice of, like, a poor decision that we always make habitually, or a bad habit basically, then we're going to just make that wrong decision every single time because we do the same, because we are creatures who run on habit. And so that's why you have to be able to analyze your brain as if it was a tool. And so you can notice that way when there's a mistake, so that you don't just run through the same faulty logic over and over again. I mean, for example, if you're to use a software program and then there's a bug, for example, let's say you were to run Google search and the first result is always going to be misinformation. Imagine that. And then what you habitually click the first result every single time. And then maybe you go, okay, like let's say, for example, this Google, this is an imaginary Google, right? It's inside your brain. You have a search algorithm inside your brain to search for information from your history. So I don't mean literally Google, but Google is easier to understand because it's a software. So imagine your internal search function. The first result is always wrong, and habitually you always click the first result. Now, if one time you go, wait a minute, you look at the first result and go, is this right? And then you go, are my search functions right? Like, am I correctly searching for the results? And then you go and stop it from, sending you the wrong result on the first option every time. And then in the future, you fix your algorithm. That's like an analogy, but that's kind of how it is. For example, I guess if you habitually turn something negative, which isn't negative, I'll give you a ridiculous example, just because it's easier. It's like when you see these examples of people who start to imagine that their partner is cheating, and then the way they view the world, the way they view their partner's actions now are on the premise of this must mean that he's cheating, because they made the decision that they're probably cheating, so they look for evidence to support it rather than the other way around, rather than seeing the evidence first. And so that wrong heuristic, the assumption, will completely break the 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 conclusions you get. And I think so in Solve for Happy he mentions 6 grand illusions, and I can't remember all of them. And there was also there was 6 grand illusions, and there was 7 great mistakes when analyzing situations. And I mean, you really should read the book, but I'll go back to the chapter and see and try to actually write notes on it, because I didn't write it down. But it was examples like predictions, assumptions, exaggerations. When you have a thought about an event or a fact that then you make, so let's say the example they used the word, maybe you lose your pencil. Then after you lose the pencil, maybe you have a bunch of different thoughts about this losing your pencil. You start to make up facts like, oh, I bet it was this person. Oh, or if they're just out to get me, or they keep stealing from me. And it's like there's like predictions, assumptions, exaggerations. And obviously the pencil is just an example. It's like if you see a detail and then you put all of these like ridiculous thoughts on it that are just objectively have nothing to do with facts. It's very I can't remember all of them, but it's very important to be able to recognize those things and start to avoid overthinking in that direction. Generally bad for your happiness. Okay. So Alex Hormozi was talking about his values and what he prioritizes, and I actually wrote it down because I really like it and I can really feel it. So he said that he loves learning and he wants to do it by teaching. And I really feel that because it's like when I learn something, I want to share it with people, not just because I want other people to know it that exactly, but more so because the process of me attempting to share it with people will force me to learn it better, which I guess is kind of what I'm doing now, but I'm not really doing it with any target audience. But the process of me trying to make these videos as if I was teaching someone, because that's the purpose of the exercise, will force me to better understand what it is that I'm actually writing notes about and thinking about. So it is essentially a learning process. I'm doing this to learn. And so, when Alex said that, I really felt like it made a lot of sense. I just never thought of it that way before. So I liked it. Okay, so he was talking about what he uses as a measuring stick, what he values. And before, he used to use his net worth as a measuring stick, and the reason was because he felt like his life was basically lived for his dad, like his career, his job, his education, all of that. And he always wanted to have his own business, and his dad would always stop him, and he was depressed. So eventually he decided that he was unwilling to die to his dad's essentially values, and wanted to if he decided that if he was going to suffer, he would rather suffer failure than the suffering of not trying, like the failure of running his own business. So he just said fuck it, and he went and did his own business. And for a long time after that, his main goal was his net worth, because he wanted to win against his dad on metrics he set for himself. So at first he wanted to make enough money to show that it could work, and then he wanted to make more money than his dad, and then he wanted to make more money than his dad would ever make, and then he wanted to make more money in a year than his dad would ever make, or something like that. Stuff like that, basically. He just kept moving the goalpost because... this was a sentence he said. He was like, when he made $17 million, he went to his dad, and his dad said, yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. So that just made him want to make more. And the most important thing here is that eventually he realized that this wasn't making him happy, right? It's like he was focused on net worth for the purpose of winning against his dad, or so that like other people couldn't attack him on it. So now he changed his values, and now he's happier because he decided on something new that he actually values, because just increasing that number doesn't actually change anything in his life, realistically speaking, or how he feels inside, because he'll just move the goalpost. And now that he's changed it and chose something he actually values, he can work towards it with more meaning. I guess it's a bit like Simon's Find Your Why. But anyways, so if you so basically now you have to think about what your measuring sticks are in terms of what underlines your decisions now, and what you want to underline your decisions instead. So here are some examples I wrote down of what some measuring sticks can be for you right now, maybe. Or so net worth was an example. Being skilled in a sport, for example, maybe if you're a sportsman, maybe being a good parent, maybe raising your child to be a certain person. Now maybe you shouldn't do that, because maybe you should, not be that narrow in your options. Also, it would be outsourced. Teaching people something, or maybe your value is to reduce emissions. So maybe you want to work in the green sector. Maybe your goal is to work for a nonprofit organization for trees, to solve world hunger by helping remove hunger from a certain group of people. And or maybe you believe in your God, one true God, and your life goal is to propagate your God. Maybe what you value is to change the way the world works and views a certain subject, politically or apolitically, and so on. So you should try to find what influences your decisions, and then go, do I want that to be what influences my decisions? And I'll give you an example. Before, for me, my decisions were basically just influenced by whether or not that thing, like I just took whichever path was path of least resistance. Basically, that was what underlined a lot of my decisions. The decision that was easiest was usually the one I went with. And then now that I realize it, I do want to change it. Basically, doesn't mean I'll pick the hardest, but I just don't want that to be my main metric for decisions. I haven't decided what exactly it is I want as my most important value yet, though. But yeah, so before his measuring stick was his net worth, and then he changed it after he realized that it wasn't actually, there was nothing he could work towards that actually brought him satisfaction. Like he couldn't just, like for example, if he wanted to expand his business in this section, it was just because he thought it was most effective for his net worth, rather than because he thought it could make him happier. It was basically to avoid the stick and not to get the carrot, I guess. So you need to find your carrot that you want, basically. I guess. Anyways. Okay. Yeah, okay, so so another line with the same context is basically he wants to define the rules for the game he played, because before he was playing by his dad's rules, and he was doing everything to fulfill his dad's dreams, which was him taking over his dad's business, and then he just didn't like that game. So now he changed the rules, and the rules are, if he has to make the business succeed, and also based on his value, which is to basically teach people how to do business, which is what his metric, and that is the rule. So he looks at his decisions and it goes, does this put more goodwill into the world? Am I providing more value to people than I am receiving, and am I helping people learn to do business? So basically those are now the rules, and he can decide if he's winning based on the rules. And before, he was winning on his dad's rules, but he wasn't enjoying the game. So now he plays a different game. Anyways, I'm not actually sure how well I can take away from this, but I decided to write it down and leave it as a note. I don't actually know how I can use this one, actually. I don't know what game I'm playing or what game I want to play in this context. Yeah, so okay, so this is a comment that I don't think this one's based on what Alex said. maybe. I think this one might be from, where is this from? I don't remember. Anyway, so the note I wrote here is outsourcing self-love. A lot of people, so I don't remember exactly where I heard this that prompted me to write this, but essentially, a lot of people will decide that they're not worthy of love until X. For example, I think in Solve for Happy that he mentioned a crazy statistic which said that 4% of American women felt that they were worthy of love or something like that, and then the rest felt that they should be skinnier. Okay, I can't remember. Okay, I don't. I mean, that doesn't really make sense to me. Maybe it's true. I don't know how this statistic works, but anyways, it was something crazy where it's like they're just saying that they feel that they're inadequate or something. But essentially, it's like you there are people who decide that they're not worth loving because they feel inadequate in X. Which is fine if you believe that, but that doesn't mean, or at least I'm just explaining the theory here, that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to love yourself. And so I will talk about this a bit in terms of the message that is meant to be conveyed. My personal way of framing this message is to think of it in terms of, again, actually, in terms of parenting. If you were to have a child and you naturally want the best for it, you want it to be safe, you want it to be healthy, you want it to have its needs met, and then you also want it to grow up bigger, stronger, smarter, more capable in and ready for the challenges of life. Okay, and when you have a parent, so from the perspective of the child now, you would want your parents to be more attuned to things you actually want. Maybe, for example, your parents are always out working and you would rather live in worse conditions financially and have your parents around, just example. Or maybe you have parents who just tell you to go study and won't actually listen or talk. Or maybe you have parents that talk too much and you don't want to hear it. It doesn't actually get into your head. And so basically it's like you as a child, you want your parents to be more attuned to what you want, and as a parent you want your children to be more attuned to what you want. So now you have to play both roles for yourself internally. And I say this because it does make sense if you think about it. So from the perspective of the parent, you have these things that you want your child to have and be. And as a child, you want to have this level of freedom and kind of laziness and being relaxed and not focusing so much, right? It's like you don't want to be that efficient with your life. You just don't want to try that hard, maybe. So now you have to balance these things. So you have to look at it. You have to look at yourself in a way. So this is from the parent's perspective. You have to look at yourself in a way where you will do things that will get you places that you want to get without putting expectations that would make them rebellious. So you have to provide care and empathy so that they will be able to, and this they is the you that performs actions and lives in the physical world, and you, the parent, is kind of like the one who's trying to control what you do to be more effective. So you have to combine what you want with what they want to get it in a way and balance it in a way that you'll get what you want. Or like you can't just say go to your room, go study, go clean your room, go go mow the lawn, go do this, go do that, and without actually trying to be accommodating here. And as a child, you can't just do whatever you want and then say that all the life's problems you can handle, whatever. It's like, I'm not gonna do any of that. So it's like you have to. So now you have to balance both of these perspectives for yourself. And the reason I mention this is because in this perspective, you have to, in order for you to care for them, have empathy for what they want, you have to care about them. So like the parent has to care about the child to actually want them to do this, do that, and become this, become that. But you also have to extend your care to actually care about what they think and what they want, because they're not going to just want to, be a doctor or this or that. So it's like you have to balance this thing, and this also takes care. You have to care about what they think, and you have to have empathy. That takes care. And then from the other perspective, you have to care about your parents so that you will actually show some respect for them and what they think and what they want. So you'll also work in their direction. So you have to care about yourself in this situation in order to actually control your actions. So this is so basically it's like it's unconditional. You have to care about yourself unconditionally, because if you don't care, then you're not going to do any of these things. You're going to be the parent who tells them to go clean the room, go do this, go do that, and be angry and disappointed and maybe harmful when they don't do those things. And you're going to be the child who doesn't care about what their parents say because you're rebellious and they just keep nagging you and they keep telling you to do this, do that, and without actually caring what you want. So you're not going to care about your parents. You're not going to care about what they say. You're going to be angry at them. You're going to take it as if you're a prisoner of war, and you're never going to open your mouth. It's like they can threaten you, and that just makes you more rebellious and more angry, and you're at odds with yourself. You don't care about your parents don't care about you, and in both cases you are both of these parties. And if you live like this, where you don't care about yourself in this form, it's like you don't feel you deserve to be loved, but it's like you don't feel your parents deserved your love, and you don't feel you deserved your parents' love in this case, where of course you are both you and the parent. So which context do you think is healthier, right? So you have to pick the dynamic which is healthier for you, and that happens to be caring about yourself. So don't outsource your self-care to certain variables and say you think this should happen for you to deserve love. For example, maybe you should say, oh, my child needs to get into Harvard to deserve to be loved. Obviously you don't say that, but that's kind of how you treat yourself sometimes. It's like, I would need to exercise, I would need to eat healthy, I would need to have a good job, I would need to have good grades to deserve for my own love for myself, which is kind of like that toxic parent-child relationship, right? So it's like when you feel this way, or sometimes it's like better body shape, right? You feel insecure about your body shape, you feel that you should be in better physical shape, you should feel that you should have a better figure to deserve to be loved. And so, that's basically on the topic of outsourcing self-love. Don't do it. You don't require external factors to justify caring about yourself. Again, this is not something that I'm basing off of my life experience. This is just my thoughts about information and books, podcasts, whatever that I'm listening to. Okay, I just want to remind you, this is like I'm using the things I can see in books and in my past, and maybe in the people I've seen, in the people I've listened to, in the anecdotes that I'm exposed to base my subsequent explanation and what thoughts I have on the things I hear. I don't even remember what exactly it is I heard that made me write outsourcing self-love. I can't remember exactly, but those are the only 3 words I wrote, and those are the thoughts I have on the topic. Okay, next is... this is an extension of the previous topic. Wherever I heard the previous one, I just wrote these notes after on whatever they said after. Decide that you will try your best and approve of your effort rather than the outcome. Then put your new effort into something new. Okay, so this is basically where if you say, let me see. If you try very, very hard, and you like genuinely, and this is different. So like when you have a child, maybe it's not always obvious how hard they try for something, but you can analyze how hard you try for something, like genuinely, and be objective about it and be fair about it too. For example, if you are someone who's been procrastinating a lot, been slacking off a lot, been playing video games a lot, and you managed to do focus for 2 hours to study or write an essay, and then you didn't get a great grade, and then you go, oh yeah, I didn't try very hard because other people could try harder because other people are doing it for 8 hours a day or this or that. Listen, the effort is the difference of you from what you usually do. So you took a lot of effort to do more than what you usually do to get a better result than you would have got. So reward yourself by saying you tried this time. It's okay that you failed. You don't have to reward failure, but you do have to reward effort, which means you have to decide that even though the outcome wasn't as good as it could have been, even though you didn't put in as much as other people could have, you improved from your previous habits of effort, and therefore you should say that the measurement of reward here is dependent on how much effort you put in, and the reward, okay, maybe not the reward. That's not the best way to put it, but basically you need to acknowledge it and go, okay, this was good. I'm going to do it again. Okay, so next time you put in 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 30 minutes, and so on. So it's like you can't, rather than I put in effort, it wasn't enough, I didn't try hard enough, other people do more, I failed anyway, the results weren't that good, I'm just going to not do it next time, right? It's like, that's the difference. You don't have to go, oh yeah, I tried so hard, I did 2 hours more than before, I'm going to go out and eat cake even though my grades weren't that good, right? So it's like, there's a balance between the two, which is basically, I will do this again, and I will continue doing this because this in itself was a good thing that I did. The action was good. It was better than what I did before, and that in itself is sufficient. I had to go out of my usual habits to accomplish what I did, and what I accomplished was putting in the 2 hours of work I normally procrastinate and play video games during, for example. Okay. Yeah, so basically, okay, now I know this one's definitely, this recent section is definitely from Solve for Happy, that I took the notes through. Take notes of things you did that you're proud of every day. Now, I don't do this. I don't know if I will do this, but it makes sense if you want to make yourself happier. Because again, we're very focused on turning things negative. We have a negative filter on things we do. Well, most people. So if you force yourself to take note of good things that you do, even if normally at the end of the day, when you look back, you don't really feel that it was great. But at the moment, if you say, I'm putting in effort to go out of my way to do this, maybe it's, say 100 push-ups, or like 100 run for a kilometer, or I focused for an hour, or I meditated for 20 minutes. As you do it, write it down, and then that way, at the end of the day, you can look back and go, hey, today wasn't that bad, because we are not inclined to actually focus or remember or take notice of the positive things that we do or the positive things that happen. And also you can say, maybe I met a dog and I played with the dog. Maybe you could say, I went for a walk and there was a cat, or something like that too. And, it's, if you write down the good things, then you can increase your overall happiness. Now, personally, I probably won't do it, though if my primary goal is making myself happier, then it does make sense. Why won't I do it? Maybe I should. Well, I mean, the main reason is that I don't actually feel particularly unhappy, but, I don't know. Maybe I should try it. Only listen to feedback if if they are giving you feedback with good intentions. So, constructive criticism. People can criticize you with good intentions, but if it's not constructive, then you can you can count that out. Maybe you can tell them. You can let them know. You go, listen, I only accept constructive criticism, and this criticism is not constructive. Maybe you tell me what you don't like, but you're not telling me what you would want instead. So that doesn't count. And you draw a line with them, and then you say, listen, I'm not gonna deal with that. Or if you just think it's not even with good intentions, you just cut them off. Basically, just don't listen to it. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them in the future. Or if you have anything with them, then maybe you just tell them that's not an acceptable way to do things. And if the feedback is with good intentions, then you should actually explore why they're saying it, what their intentions are, and so on. Which is basically, don't listen to criticism that doesn't come with genuinely good intentions. So yeah, basically constructive criticism is good, but anything else is worthless. And you should probably not interact with the people, or if you need to interact with the people, let them know that it's going to need to come in a constructive way. I've actually tried this, but I admit I did it in a bit quite an unhappy way. I could have been a lot more polite about it, but I did raise my voice at the time that I did this. This was actually before reading this part of the book. Anyways, we are at 30 minutes, so I will end it. But yeah.